feelings for your mother still. I said, what you mean? He said, yeah, I just want to know, do you have any type of feelings? Do you still love your mother after all that she put you through? I said, well, let me tell you. I love my mother because she brought me into this world. But my mother is not responsible for the woman I am today. She did not make me the woman I am today. You know, and he said, well, if it was my mother, that did something like that with me, he said I wouldn't want to have nothing to do with her. He said, he told
And that's
me,
understandable.
he said, Mrs. Wallace, you ain't missing nothing. You ain't missing nothing, Mrs. Wallace. And he said, well, she didn't care about you. She left you out there for anything that came to you. She left you out there for it.
Yeah,
She didn't care.
exactly. As sad as that is, it is the truth.
Yeah, it is the truth. It is.
It's true.
My husband says that my mother, and not that he tried to, talk me against my mother, but my husband says she left you out there. She didn't care whether you died or not. She didn't care. Because at the same time, my mother, because I had a history of seizures, my mother was still collecting the check for me while I wasn't there.
And she knew full well why you weren't there, because she had deliberately left you behind.
Yes, yes.
That is, wow. That's it takes a very.
Yeah, it's just, I really want to, if it's okay, Amani, is it okay for me to say a little of my speech, not the whole speech? Just a very little of it for the kids so they can hear. Because my speech is my life. It's happened to me. And I just want everyone, they will be able to understand, the ones that have not read the book, that's listening. Because what I'm about to say, my speech is my life. That's how I made the speech. It's my life story. My name is Emily Wallace, and I'm an author of a book called Scarred for Life. And when I say scarred for life, y'all, I mean scarred for life. And I'm here today to talk about that book. And I'm also here today to talk about a child being abused. One child being abused is too much. It's over 2 million. 2 million reports are being made to the Child Protective Service nationwide every year. A child is being abused every minute, every hour, every second. Just as well as the child is being born into this world. Silence is not the answer when it comes to abuse. I want you guys to know to never be afraid to speak out with abuse. If you feel that somebody is abusing you, neglecting you, go to authorities. Speak out. Also, because, oh my, I'm sorry, Avani. I kind of got a little emotional. I have to. I'm going to do it.
That's okay.
I apologize. It's just that I'm going through it. That's all. I'm fine. I'm gonna start.
That's okay. Can I ask you something before you start again? From your hand on your heart, do you blame your family for what happened to you, especially your mother, after you were left behind as a child? I just want to ask that question before you start.
I blame all of them. Yes, I do. Mm-hmm. Because I had older sisters and brothers. I had, my mother. I 100% blame all of them. I'm legally blind, and I end up losing my sight. I mean, I experienced so much. I blame them. Yes, I do. 100%.
Wow. But to this day, you still were trying to find out why. You still wanted to have a relationship. You still tried to get some kind of answers from them, even though you were hurting, even though you were so stressed out. You were so... There's not enough words for me to use to describe maybe even some of the things that you may have been feeling. This is your story, going through this. Only who feels it knows it. No one else can really understand what you've been through, because they didn't walk that road with you, did they? So, yeah. I mean, okay. Can I ask you then, what kind of relationship, if any, do you have now with your mother and any of your family? Have you decided to?
I don't have any right now with my siblings. Like I said, they is upset about the book. They out of the whole family, they bought one book. Excuse me, and they passed it on to all of them.
Oh.
So, and everybody read it. So, and my mother is, it's if I see her, it's a high and by thing. It's no relationship. No, it's not.
Wow.
No.
Wow. I mean, I know you're collecting yourself. You want to do your speech again, don't you? But one more thing I want to ask you, which is probably one of the most powerful. Have you or could you ever forgive your mother for leaving you behind after everything that you have been through?
You know what? I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I just don't. I don't think so. I mean, it's hard. That would be hard. I mean, because I'm not getting the answer. I'm not getting why. I mean, she's not giving me a good enough answer of what she's telling me or what she have told me. I was a fast little girl. That's the only thing you can tell me, that why you left me for. I was out there for 6 years. That's not a good enough reason. I can't even imagine leaving my daughter because she's fast. Or either she could have gave me to the state of Michigan. She knew if she didn't want me, she could have gave me to the state of Michigan.
Yeah, I did ask you, didn't I? Because we've spoken before we were doing today's show, and I just was amazed to think that if she had needed help in any way, and she couldn't cope with all of her children and thought, okay, maybe I need to ask for help, because that is what they're there for, isn't it?
That's right.
Worst case scenario, if you can't cope with your children, that's what you do. You ask for help. Most parents say, oh, it's a failure, but no, it may help your children to have a better quality of life if you are struggling at that time, right?
Right. So if you need help, she should have just, gave me to the state. If you was going to leave me in the streets like that, you could have just, gave me to the state of Michigan. But I think that she wasn't going to give me to the state of Michigan. She didn't, because she had a check coming in and she wanted to keep that check.
Yes. Now, you see, you mentioned this earlier. So you had some type of disability check coming through when you were living at home, and Yeah. So that basically, oh my goodness, she decided, after willingly and knowingly leaving you behind, not caring about your welfare, we might add, she decided to keep collecting these checks and keep having this money. So not telling anybody that you were no longer living under her roof and she was no longer looking after you, and she decided to keep collecting this money.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's a very, very, wow. People out there, I know the listeners are amazed at what they're hearing today, intrigued to know, as you say, you have the second part of your book coming out. They're probably very intrigued to know exactly, as you say, what happened to you next, and the next part of your story, the next part of your life, and how you have coped up until this point is an absolute miracle. As I said today, everyone, the fact that this lady is sane, not in a mental institute, can tell her story, and the fact that you choose to keep telling your story is just an inspiration. We are about to take another break. Please, Emily, after the break, if you would, I'd like to ask you to do your speech, if you're okay to do that. And
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, after this break, this next song, Show Yourself Strong, Fred Hammond. We'll be right back on the other side after this.
Stay tuned for more of the Ask Avani Show, only on So Metro Radio.
Good afternoon and welcome back. You are tuned into the Ask Avani Show here, live today on So Metro Radio. Yes, our show is very interesting this afternoon. We are talking to our very special guest, motivational speaker and author Emily Wallace, writer of the book Scarred for Life. Emily, welcome back. Please, you were about to tell us your speech before the break. Please tell us your speech now.
Okay. My name is Emily Wallace, and I'm an author of a book called Scarred for Life. And when I say Scarred for here today to talk about that book. And I'm also here today to talk about a child being abused. One child being abused is too much. It's over 2 million. 2 million reports are being made to the Child Protective Service nationwide every year. A child is being abused every minute, every hour, every second, just as well as a child is being born into this world. Silence is not the answer when it comes to abuse. I want you guys to know to never, ever be afraid to speak out. Never when somebody abuse you, never think you caused it. Never think it's something that you did to deserve this. Never think you caused it because you didn't. Never be afraid to go to authorities. And when I say authorities, you can go to the police, you can go to a teacher, you can go to Child Protective Service, you can even go to a friend to get help. Because abuse is something serious. Abuse is something that you cannot deal with alone. You cannot keep it in the closet. You cannot sweep it under the rug. You have to let it out. You have to speak out and you have to tell, because you may hold it in too long and it may be too late. Because that person that abused you may decide to do something stupid. I mean, they already did something stupid, but they may want to do something stupider. So you have to go to authorities and you have to speak out. And I repeat myself over and over and over again, because I want you guys to put it up here. I want you guys to put it up here and to know what I'm saying. Now, I want you guys to sit back. I want you guys to bear with me. I want you guys to close your eyes just for 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Can you imagine? I mean, imagine at the age of 11 years old, coming home from school, finding out that your mother and all your sisters and brothers have left you intentionally. That was me. About 5 minutes later, my mother's boyfriend came up the street. And I said to him, I said, where is my mother? And he said, Emily, I was told not to tell you where they moved to. I looked at him eye to eye, and I said, why? He hunched his shoulders and went on by his business. I sat down on them steps, and I cried, and I cried, and I was so scared and so afraid that I didn't know what to do. I said, God, please send my mother back to come and get me. I said, what have I done to deserve this? I said, whatever I've done, I would never do it again. Mama, please come back and get me. And that's why I'm telling you guys this today. If you got somebody that loves you, that cares about you, that respects you, that's supporting you, telling you, go ahead, you can do this. You can get your education. It's never too late to get your education. Respect that. Because I want all kids to know. I want all kids to know that Mrs. Wallace did not have that at the age of 11 years old. Mrs. Wallace was afraid to speak out. And I want you guys to know to never be afraid to speak out with abuse. If you feel that somebody is abusing you, neglecting you, go to authorities. Speak out. Thank you.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. That is a very powerful speech. Wow.
I didn't do all the speech, Amani. I just, I cut it off some. But
that's okay.
That's
fine.
That's enough for the kids that they can hear.
Oh, you already have people's interest with the fact that you are so brave and willing to speak out already. That is, I mean, I've seen, because I've read your book and I saw the poem at the beginning of your book. People, you need to go and buy this book. You need to read this book, Scarred for Life by Emily Wallace. Wow. Can I ask you something, Emily? You know when you were saying, you know when you were saying that as you were homeless and you were